the Harbir Singh podcast.
Welcome back. It's a huge honor to have Gopal Bolina on the show today. I've known Gopal for many years, and I'm really excited to share this interview with you today. Before we go any further, please smash the thumbs up button and share this with as many people as possible so we can learn from his wisdom that he's acquired over 15 years of training. So thank you so much for being on the show. We've had some technical difficulties, so I appreciate you being patient and repeating yourself. And we kind of we're talking about your training journey, how you've been in Muay Thai for 15 years. You've had fights. You've trained with some of the best people in the world. You've trained in Thailand, so a very unique journey. And we were talking about how in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, at least, there's usually 1% of a club's membership that will make it to black belt level, which is kind of 10 years on average it takes to get to that point. And we can assume other martial arts would have the same attrition rate, have the same dropout rate. So 15 years in, you're still training, you're still fighting. I know you had a fight recently. What's kind of kept you sticking with it for that long, through the ups and downs for that long?
Yeah, so no, it's a great question to ask. Like I said to you, I started it only to have an aim to be in it for about a year or so. And a year turned into 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. And I just became addicted to it. And it was just something I loved so much. I remember I used to just get so excited. I used to come back from school, I used to have my bag ready and everything. And it instilled so much discipline into me. It came to a point where like my grades were slipping and my mum lot would tell Crew J and everyone, oh, his grades are slipping. I remember they stopped me coming class for a bit till my grades went up, and that used to kill me. And I used to be like, oh my God, I need to get my grades up so I can go class. And I just used to be wowed, like as a 15-year-old, like seeing the likes of yourself, Crew J, Crew Sab, sparring, smashing pads. And I was like, they were like superheroes to me. And I was like, wow, I want to get up to that some stage that day. I want to get up to that. And then the years just went on, and I really, really wanted to fight after about, say, 5 years of training. And Budley, Crew Sook's brother, was always speaking to Sook like, oh, we got to get Gopal a fight. Sook, no, he's not ready yet. No, he's not ready yet. And that used to kill me inside. I used to be like, oh, but I've been training so hard. What can I do to get there? And he was like, look, until your God's not ready or anything, he goes, we're not going to get you there. And I remember for about two and a half years extra, I trained every day until like Sook was pleased with it. And I remember one day he just goes to me, he goes, Gopal, so we're going to get you a fight. And that was it. And it just, that's what kept me going.
Did you not feel any anxiety, having a fight? Because I think that's, again, probably a very small minority of people will go and do that.
If I'm honest with you, I probably didn't know at the time that I had anxiety. But now when I look back on it as well, it probably is, because anyone that knows me that, like, when I've got a fight coming up, I give it 110%. That's all I think about. And on the day, like, normally I'm quite a chirpy person. On the day of my fights, I'm the total opposite. I talk to no one. I'm just in full fight mode. You'll see me with my headphones in. I just don't talk to anyone. I get really nervous and everything. But when I was younger, I used to get a lot worse. But I didn't know what it was. And I always used to think, oh, it's just butterflies in my stomach. But now I look back at it, I probably did have a bit of fighting anxiety. But for me, it's the best thing to happen to me in a weird way, because it keeps me focused. Nerves are good for me. Nerves keep me focused. And I remember looking back on, and I was watching a TED talk about Simon Sinek, and he's talking about how you turn that nervous energy and you turn it into excitement, and how loads of sprinters do it. And whenever they have anxiety or butterflies in the stomach, they tell themselves they're excited. So all they know is excitement. So for me, it's not that I'm anxious enough. It's just I care so much about it that I just don't want to let anyone down, more so my coaches. But then those nerves, I can literally block everyone out, the whole crowd. And then I always see it as me, Sook and Sav fighting. And it's like literally like they've got the PlayStation controller and I'm the fighter, and I'll block everything out and it's time to go.
That's amazing. It's really good to hear this, because I've never obviously had this conversation with you. So it's really interesting to get inside your mind and see, because you've had quite a few fights, right?
Yeah, I would say about over 15 now, I would say, over the years. Can't remember how many now. There's probably a few more there that I'm missing out, but yeah, I've had quite a few.
Wow. And has it gotten easier over time?
It It hasn't got easier, but it hasn't got too like they say the typical thing. And I never believed it. That's what my sister said, which is, oh, like the older you get, the harder it is to lose weight and everything. I used to be like, no, but now I do find it like when the older I've got, my metabolism has got a bit more slower. But touch wood for me, it's just luckily I've always been training consistently over the years. Like I need it for me. For me, Muay Thai is my therapy, my go-to time. Working out for me is my time kind of thing. But it hasn't gotten harder. Like, don't get me wrong, fight camps, like, I think Suk will try and make it as hard as possible for me just so I can fight to the best of my ability. But that only comes from care. But it hasn't got any harder. But I think it's got more strategic over the years, like changing up the ways we fight and everything as well. But it's more exciting and helps me learn more and grow as a fighter.
That's amazing. And the weight cut, I think, is an interesting one because a lot of people from outside of kind of martial arts and competition and mixed martial arts, they probably hear a lot about weight cuts and hear a lot of negative press about it.
Yeah.
How do you go about doing it? Because in UFC you see these dramatic weight cuts and you think, how do these people do this?
So I've always never let myself put on stupid amounts of weight or go overly, like I never used to believe in like water cutting, like you turn up on the day a certain weight, then the next day you're just blown up like, I don't know, 5-6 kilos. So on the day of my fight is my actual weight that I weigh in at, like all the time kind of thing. I never want to be too, like, I don't want to lose so much energy before the fight and feel really lethargic and everything else. So I try and do it as organic as possible and just stay towards that kind of weight as well. And that gives me the discipline to be, and not to go over my weight too much throughout the year as well.
And how much do you go from to?
So and now obviously I'm a bit more heavier than I used to fight at, but I used to fight between 61 and 63, and then I would probably go up to max 68, 69, I would say, and then I'd only have to cut about 5 kilos.
Okay, so let's say you're 69 hypothetically, and then you want to fight at 63, so you're looking at kind of, or 61, you're looking at say 6 kilograms. What's the process to lose? Because that's nearly a stone. What kind of time frame are you looking at, and is that strictly through training, or what modifications do you make to diet?
So I would do like a majority of things. So drinking water is crucial. So smashing at least about minimum 2 to 3 liters of water a day. I would give myself around 12 weeks and everything. So I think is a good duration. And if you're not killing yourself too much, so I do a mixture of things. So like I go swimming, running, and then diet-wise, it doesn't have to be boring. I think this is the misconception. People think, oh, if you're cutting, it always needs to be boring. Like you could just add spices to your food and make it fun. And the thing is, well, carbs ain't your enemy. And for a sport like Muay Thai, I don't think people realize you actually need it so much. But it's just you have to be smart when to indulge them and everything as well. You've got to have good sources of carbs and everything as well. But I think because we've been doing it for so long, I know what type of fuel I need. I know what to cut out. And it's just training or like doing my cardio like 4 times a week. Then my Muay Thai, I'll probably do about 3 to 4 days a week as well. So you get to know your body as well and kind of what it needs for you to get to that goal.
And have you noticed your energy levels are still sufficient for you to be able to, when you're dieting, are you still able to keep your volume of training? Do you still feel as energetic, or is it a bit of a slog to get through each session?
It depends on the days I'm training. Like, for example, if I know I've got a heavy day of sparring and pad work, I'll eat extra carbs, and I know that day I feel like extra fueled because I've got so much energy in me. But some of the days when I drop the carbs a little bit and I'm still exercising, those are the days when I feel it a bit more, because it feels like your body's just craving that extra kind of thing as well. So it varies from day to day, I would say.
And do you get hungry? How do you manage your moods, like with when you're on a deficit?
Yeah, my sister will probably tell you I am quite a hangry person. Like if I need to eat, I get really impatient. But like normally, if I'm not cutting, like I think my family call me like the world's fastest eater. Like I eat, it's like literally someone's pressed fast forward. But if I'm cutting, every bite, like I take my time with it and everything as well, because I just savor it much more.
Yeah, that's amazing. And to talk me through your last fight, how did it go? Did it go to plan?
Yeah, so just had an interclub, which is basically like a hard spar, and went in this fight much more different. Like every other fight that I've had will like always been a bit of a slugfest. Like always been something like out of a Rocky movie, just like going at it with one each other. But this one totally wanted to change the way we approach the fight and just wanted to fight a bit more smart, a bit more tactical, and it went to plan. It went really well. My opponent was brilliant, so kudos to him. Gave me a really good fight, but it was just fighting smart this time as opposed to just going in and slugging it out. So we just had a plan in place, being more tactical, being more slick, putting more shots in, getting out, becoming more evasive, and it just became and it went all to plan. But I think that what makes you better as a fighter, because now I want to be able to start reading people better and being able to adapt to so many different fighters, and not only be the type of fighter that can only just slug it out, because I need to build up my fight IQ, and a great fighter can fight all types of different fighters, and I think that's how you learn within Muay Thai as well, because there's so many different styles, and I think that's the beauty of being in that sport.
Yeah, and I guess with yourself, it's you have to figure that out really quickly because you don't necessarily have that much information on your opponent, and so you have no idea with the multitude of variables and tools that person could be bringing, like what they're going to show up with on the day, and so it is a really interesting one. I've been watching some of your. I was telling you, I've been binge watching some of your fights. I saw the one against Mohammed, is it Diesel Chowdhury or something?
Yeah.
That was a really good fight. I really liked. It was very kind of technical in terms of you utilizing kicks and body shots, and it was real rather than getting drawn into just trading.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a really good fight. And there was one. He was using more of a kickboxing kind of like taekwondo style. It was that one. I don't know if you remember.
Gustavo. Yeah, that was my last fight, and I remember that fight because I don't know if you remember, but do you remember I came to see you because I hurt my foot.
Your knee. Your foot.
2 weeks before, and then you said to me, "You're like, Gopal, I don't think you should be fighting." And I remember my face just dropped. And I was more like, oh, what do I tell my coach? I was like, we were training so hard. And I remember I went up to him and I went, sick. I was like, I'm just going to see Harbir. And he goes, I don't think you should be kicking or fighting. And he goes, can you knee? And I was like, yeah. He goes, we won't kick the whole fight. He goes, we'll just knee. And then it's quite funny though, because when we watched the fight back, the commentator's like, oh, he should have followed up with a kick. And I'm thinking, I can't kick.
I wish I could.
I wish I could. But it's just with things like that, that's how much faith your coaches have into you, and you're thinking, look, if they can trust you with like one of your arsenals gone, and like the world's your oyster from there, then you can go at it, because they're the ones that have signed that declaration and said, look, we're going out to battle with you. They have more faith in you than actually you have faith in yourself. So if they can see that, then obviously look, I'm all good to go.
Wow. It's amazing. And have you noticed like any practical benefits of training in martial arts? Because this a lot of younger generation will be watching this or listening to this, and the goal in part will be to inspire other people to follow in your footsteps. So outside of being able to beat people up in the ring, is there any other benefits that you found in training?
Oh, yeah, no, massively. It's given me the discipline that I've needed in my life. So the discipline that Muay Thai has instilled in me, I've been able to put into my career, which is really good. So I'm the type of person that if I'm going to do something, I go 110% within everything. But Muay Thai has given me that as well. And it's a great thing as well. I think this is what most people don't believe. And I'll go into the physical parts of it as well. But when I've gone for job interviews, and when I've gone to networking events and people have seen that I've done Muay Thai, half the time I end up spending talking about Muay Thai, and then they're like, oh, let's go back to the question, because there's a common interest there and they want to find out about it. But it can help you out in so many different parts. Like I've seen some people who have been very shy at coming into the gym, and through Muay Thai they've opened up and become their true selves of who they are and open up into them. It's such a beautiful sport, and it helps people out significantly. I remember things like from a physical point of view now, like I never used to lift weights for a number of years. I used to stick to a number of body weights exercises, but when I started going gym, I used to be able to push heavier than some of my friends that were going to gym, only because of the core strength that I instilled from Muay Thai, from your press ups, your chin ups, through tricep dips, or wheelbarrows, everything like that. And it's so important for you to do that. And I think people really still undervalue your core exercises, but it does help you out so much because you need that core strength. and the core strength is the basics to anything as well. But I can honestly say Muay Thai saved my life, and it's something that I'm going to carry on hopefully for the rest of my life.
That's amazing. And from a clinical perspective, I remember the days when I used to train Muay Thai, and I couldn't conceive how people could get back pain, because you're doing so many kicks, so many knees, and your abdomen and your stabilizing muscles get so strong that you kind of think, how can someone's back ache and how can someone's back hurt? And it really does wonders for building that core strength. And I think that's why a lot of gym goers hurt their backs, is because they work everything else and they want to get big, but they neglect the thing that's probably most important, which is their spine and their neck and their back. So that's amazing how you built up that strength through body weight and through Muay Thai. What was your experience like in Thailand?
Oh, Thailand was honestly, it was the best thing. I felt like a kid in a candy shop. Like when I went to Simbi Muay Thai because a gent that used to train with us. Remember Satnam? He used to go there for a number of years, and he's always said, "Oh, if you go there," he goes, "it's such a beautiful place," because it was up in the mountains in Phuket, and it was just honestly amazing. When I got there, I was like, "Wow!" But training there is on a different level. Like they just live and breathe it there, and it was absolutely amazing. I felt like starstruck at times. I was like, "Wow!" And but to get used to the heat as well, it was so hot. I remember after class, I'd have to like squeeze my shorts, and like it would be pouring out with sweat. And it was absolutely amazing. I just got addicted to it. Loved training out there, but it's a different ball game out there. Like for example, like over here when we're sparring, sometimes we might spar hard and everything. They don't really believe they to spar too hard at times because they're fighting so often. But it was amazing in the sense that when we were training them, we're doing pad work. Different trainers there specialize in different things. So you have one pad man that would be specializing in elbows. You have another one that would specialize in teeps, another one for your roundhouse kick, and another one for clinching. And then you would have to do sparring. And then we're sparring people from all around the world. I was sparring people from like Europe, Australia, America, some of the Thais. I remember I was sparring this one Thai, and I knew he was just messing about with me. Because I remember, he'd kick me and I'd try to catch him. And every time I'd go to kick him, he'd jump onto the rope and just hang there. And I'm like, bloody hell, I'm not a bad level, but I go, he's just making me look stupid now. And then I found out afterwards he was 2-time Raja Madan champion, current champion.
Wow. Wow, that's amazing. What an incredible opportunity to be able to train with those people, because you probably don't. It's rare, I think, that you get to train with world champions. If you're like part of boxing, you're probably not going to get many chances to spar with Joshua, or if you're part of like MMA, you're probably not going to fight Francis Ngannou at the gym. They kind of only train with people who are very experienced or people on their own level preparing them for a fight. So I think Muay Thai is quite unique in that sense, where you really get to
massively. We're very fortunate enough to train along some great people as well, and it's one of those places where it's not an egotistical sport. I've personally find it very welcoming and everything, and everyone's got that one thing in common, like, can you kick hard and everything, like that kind of stuff. So I've never touched wood been to a Muay Thai gym and felt kind of out of place or uncomfortable, if you get what I mean. I've always felt very welcomed, because I think I think everyone can tell by your vibe as well, like what you're there to do, and people pick up on energy as well.
Yeah, I think that's something quite unique about you, actually, because everyone I speak to about you, it seems like everyone knows you, by the way, but everyone I speak to about you always speaks really highly of you, and says how humble you are. So I think, whether that's martial arts or something that's intrinsic, it's definitely a quality. When I came back to training with you guys for a while, it was because of you, actually. I thought, he's not beating up on the old men. So it just, I was trying to get everyone to come back, because I was like, oh, don't worry, Gopal's not going to beat us up. He'll be kind to us.
I wish. I still say, look, if it wasn't for you guys and training me from so young, you, Suk, Sab, Bully, everyone as well, Crew J, I still wouldn't be training. And things like that you'd never forget, right? And we're all brothers at the end of the day when we're in the gym, and we're all there for one thing, and that's just to train. I mean, we love it. I was actually saying this to Chris from training. Like sometimes, you know, when you're a really hard training session and like and you can't breathe, you think, oh, why do we take up this sport? Why can't we just do something easy? Like there must be something wrong with us on a Tuesday night that we pay to get beaten up or something like that. Or beat each other up.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, I sometimes think of when I see you guys fight, I sometimes think, I wish you guys had taken up an easier sport, you know, like tennis or something, where you're not there's no risk of serious injury.
Yeah, it's just so funny, like in the gym as well, like you could be sparring hard, and if you landed something on someone, you'll stop for a second, like, oh, that was a good shot, oh, great shot, and everything is over. It's like, it's so funny the way it works, because it's such a beautiful, violent sport, but it's so humbling at the same time.
Yeah, it's very interesting. What's the structure of training? So someone who doesn't train Muay Thai, who trains in another sport, how does it work in terms of, you go into a class, what's a typical workout like?
So typical workout, I would say, is you go into class, you might do a bit of stretching beforehand, but if you come in, I would say between 3 to 5 2-minute rounds of skipping. Then in between each round of skipping, you would do about 30 seconds to a minute of shadow boxing. Then once all that's done, I recommend stretching out for a little bit. Then there'll probably be a bit of technique work. So, for example, you might do kicks against the wall, like 50 teeps or 50 kicks on the bag or 50 knees, just to warm your body up. Then you might go into something like, you might do some clinch work on a few techniques. Within that, you do a few rounds. I'd say anywhere between 3 to 5 2-minute rounds of clinching. Then after that, we'll do pad work and bag work. Again, depending on how many people there are, then we'll rotate on the pad work. So you might have one pad man that might just do hands, and you have another pad man who will do the traditional Thai, with the traditional Thai pads, doing anywhere from kicks, knees, elbows. Then I would say it would be sparring, technical sparring. So first going through a few techniques, and then afterwards just doing some light sparring, and then some stretching, and then we'll call it a day.
And if there's somebody who, I've had a few people say this to me, that I want to get into shape and then I'm going to start, what would you say to that individual? Because I think that all of that might sound a bit intimidating for somebody who's, you know, not that fit.
Yeah, 100%. And I totally understand, because I was that person when I started Muay Thai. I was a 15-year-old fat little kid, and I remember my first session, I couldn't walk for about 2 weeks. But the only way to get fit for Muay Thai is to do Muay Thai. It's the only way I can describe it. It's good to have a basic level of fitness, like anyone like to come in, but to get fit for sparring, you need to spar more. To get fit for pad work, you need to do more pad work. Obviously, your core exercise and everything will help, but you need to learn to get that engine going in your body. You need to learn how to conserve energy and everything as well, but nothing will prepare you enough for it until you're in the sport. I know it probably can sound intimidating to some people, but when you go to your first Muay Thai lesson, no one's expecting you to be sparring and acting like a Lumpini champion. You're coming in. I would say come in as an open book, absorb as much information, and every week just try and improve by 1%. And if you set yourself a goal to try something out and you've accomplished it, it will give you the confidence to do it again and again and again. Like I tell most of the students that come class or something, like when we're sparring or they're doing a technique, I'll be like, just have that one thing in mind and just try and do that for the whole class. And once you've landed it once, it will give you the confidence to do it again and again. Then next week, you'll be like, okay, I want to try this. It could be something so simple as, I just want to land a jab clean. They can spend the whole class doing it. And once they've done it once, it'll instill in you, okay, I could try it again and again and again and again. It's like with me, I watch Muay Thai videos every day and I'll see certain techniques, and the next week when I come class, I'm like, yeah, I want to try that, or I want to try that trip, I want to try that kick, and I'll be obsessed with it. Like throughout sparring, I'm like, I've got to get it in once, but if I don't get in that week, I'll make sure the following week I get it in, and things as well. So it's just having that goal in mind and just being persistent with it as well. But it's not one of those sports you could come in and think, oh, I can get fit. It's one of those sports that's going to make you fit and will get you fit.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. And I think the initial strategy you had of doing something for 6 months or a year is good as well. Because I often think of the analogy of driving. When I first started driving, I couldn't even do clutch control. I was so terrible at it. But 30 lessons later, I was ready to take my test. So that's kind of like a very visual reminder of, if you do something and you just stick with it, you will get better. And you will, if you've got a good teacher and you're in the right club, you will, they will impart all of those skills and that technique and that environment to get you towards your goal and help you progress.
Yeah, no, 100%. Having the right teachers is like, I think, is the most important thing. I mean, when you think about school and everything, you'll always remember certain teachers, right? Because they've had such a big impact in your life. And yeah, I'm forever grateful for Crew Sik and Crew Sav and Crew J. Like if it wasn't for them, like honestly, I wouldn't be like after, like, apart from like my family and everything, as my parents and everything. So, but I wouldn't be after the person I am today without them guiding me, because they've only guided me in Muay Thai. They guided me a lot in life as well. So forever grateful as well. But the bond is always different. I always say, when you bleed together, not many people will understand that bond.
Yeah, and I kind of think with a sport where you're putting your health on the line, if you're fighting, not everyone obviously needs to fight if they do Muay Thai, but if you're fighting and you're putting your health on the line, you really need to have people in your corner that you trust, and you need to know that they have your best interest in heart. I think trust is such a important factor when it comes to training in any kind of sport. If you don't have 100% belief in that person, then I think it's very difficult for you to do what you've done, which is you'll go out and fight. And you were saying the analogy of having the controller, and they kind of giving you instructions and seeing the kind of the forest from the trees.
Yeah.
And you're playing it out and acting it out. So I think having that relationship, and maybe if someone's new to martial arts, try out a few clubs and see where you feel at home and see where you resonate with. And if someone wants to try out Muay Thai, what's the best avenue of finding somewhere for them to go to a gym if they're not close to? We'll find out where you are, but if they're not close to you.
I mean, look, the internet is such a great page now. We've got the likes of social media and everything, but just Google like your local area, and I will test out a few clubs and try and think and try them out. Like loads of places do like trial classes and everything as well. And you'll know yourself what club's going to be the right one for you, because it's like moving house, right? Like you wouldn't just invest straight away into something like that. So you'll have to try out a few places, and you'll know where home is home in that sense as well. It's an energy thing. I always say your energy will align to a certain place, and you won't feel nervous. And that's where the commitment will start coming in. Once you feel committed to a place, then you'll carry on going.
And where do you train?
So I train at Gopal Muay Thai. We are based in Ivy Bridge Boxing Club in Twickenham. We're not too far away from Tesco in Twickenham. So we're based there every Tuesdays, 7:30 to 9:30.
Brilliant. And the question I ask everyone who I interview is, are there any books that you recommend? It could be related to anything. It doesn't have to be related to Muay Thai.
Yeah, sure. One of my most favourite books that I've ever read is, so there's two actually. One of my coaches gave to me is by a boxer called Johnny Tapia. I believe the book's called La Vida Loca. Absolutely amazing book. I think Sik's read that book, I'm not lying, I think about 10 times. And he sent it to me, and he's like, read it, and I got obsessed with the book. And Johnny Tapia was one of the best, I believe, featherweights that America ever produced. And his struggle in life and how generous he was absolutely amazing. And it shows you that literally you could be at the bottom, but you could reach the top. So absolutely amazing book, I recommend. Another personal one is The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. It's a really good book. I really enjoyed reading. I read that during lockdown. And it's about an ex-corporate lawyer, and he suffers a heart attack, and he's gone and he's disappeared, and he comes back to his successor's house, and he's come back as a monk, and then he tells him about life, and he goes, I've come to teach you about life. And it just shows you like how he went from being a very materialistic person to now a very spiritual person. He talks to you about his journey and everything, and talks about manifestation and all of those types of things. It's definitely a book I'd recommend to read.
Absolutely, and I'll put the links to both of them in the description box. I have Robin Sharma's the author of The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, and he's recently put out another book. He's a really good author, so I definitely recommend checking that out as well. I haven't read the Johnny Tapia one, but I will now read it. Suk's been telling me to read that for a while, so now after both of you recommended it, I have to go. In terms of Muay Thai, are there any references, YouTube channels, Instagram pages that help in terms of technique or training and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so my favourite UK fighter is Liam the Hitman Harrison. So I always watch his videos, and he's got a great series. I think he's even got on his website you can purchase some of his training videos and everything as well. So there's that. He uses loads of references on that. There's Siam Boxing. I've got some great sparring videos on there. But I just use YouTube. YouTube's a great content place to have a look at. I used to do things like I used to watch old school Muay Thai, like people hitting pads and everything. There's also any references to that, but the world's your oyster when it comes to content for those. But yeah, I'd recommend Siam and watching any Liam Harrison videos. But it all just depends on what type of fighter you want to be as well. So I would find a fighter that you like and watch videos based around them, and that could be from anything from boxing to K1 or something. You can implement that and then you could try and you find your own fighting style, if you get what I mean.
And who's your favourite Muay Thai fighter?
Oh, my favourite is probably Liam Harrison. I've been following for years, and I love the way he fights and how he digs in those low kicks. I love digging in low kicks myself, so that's probably one big reason why.
Awesome. Well, this has been a brilliant interview, so thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you carving time up after your work day to get this done. So I'm sure everyone else will appreciate it as well. Where can people follow you? I know you've got a few things going on as well, so where can people follow your journey?
Yeah, so you can just follow me on Instagram. So I've just got an Instagram. I don't really use it too much, but then we've got the God Muay Thai Instagram page as well. So you can follow techniques and things on that. Address and everything's on there. So be sure to click on that. But no, thank you very much for having me on, Fozzy. It's been an absolute pleasure.